Great. So, hey guys, everybody who's watching, we're doing our panel discussion on preparing your app for Apple Search Ads. Here with us today is Olivier Verdin from AppTweak, Alexandra Lamachenka from SplitMetrics, Sylvain Gauchet from Aptamin, and absolutely, definitely Kara Dake from CleverTap. And Tom from SplitMetrics, just if somebody is interested in that as well. So let's start. Our topic, as I've said, is preparing your app for Apple Search Ads. My first question, guys, is kind of general for all of you. Is so Apple does not let you to choose your ad layout, right? They just somehow automatically choose what will be shown. So for you, just to give a couple of opinions, why do you think they do this? Why don't they let people choose what will be shown as an ad? Olivier, maybe you have something to say about this.
Well, I believe that's just for the user experience. So I guess if you give a lot of freedom, you would get a lot of format or a lot of different things. And for people, the ad would be too different from the search results. And when you look at the ad, when you have an ad, it's already taking nearly the wall space on your phone. And I guess if it was really like something like fully free, you would have probably too much differences. And I guess the experience for the user would be a bit strange. So that's why I guess they prefer to make it like it's very clean. It's a bit like Google. When you do a search on Google, you nearly see that there is a little ad, and I guess they do the same for the same reason.
Yeah, thanks, and Alexandra, guys.
Yeah, so I could add that Apple Search Ads is a relatively new platform, and I would say that Apple obviously collects data on performance of different ad layouts, right? So for example, I presume that some ad layouts make users install an app right from the search. Other ad layouts encourage users to explore the app product page, and after that, make a decision on whether they want to install an app or not. And all these factors actually influence the final cost per acquisition and eventually per install. So I would say that collecting all this data would be impossible if they just give publishers options, right? Because everyone wants to use the version with screenshots, app reviews, and all this fancy stuff. So, however, an ad layout with a description, for instance, can be used to promote updates, which is also very important. So I believe that in future we will be able to choose different ad layouts, and Apple will unlock this possibility to just choose an ad layout you want for different use cases. So I would say that is one of the reasons why right now we cannot choose ad layouts, but we will be able to do this in future probably.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great. And also one more question, kind of generic. So if you can't basically choose what should be done, what kind of ad will be shown to the users, what should you do just to to maximize performance? Sylvain, maybe you can expand on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it also for Apple. It's also because people at Apple are a little bit of like to control freaks a little bit and make sure the experience is consistent. So I think that's part of it too. But since you can't control what's going to be shown, I think you want to really understand the different cases of what can be shown to make sure that by themselves, the creative you have, the text you have are going to work. In each case, whether it's your screenshots, just your icon and the tagline, or if the app preview is displayed as well. So you want to plan for each of those cases, make sure it works, regardless of what Apple decides for you.
Great, thanks. And Kara, do you have maybe some thoughts on that as well?
Yeah, so we look at a lot at CleverTap. We look at a lot around engagement, intention, and retention, right, for driving LTV. So These are critical points that marketers should definitely look at for both the user experience side and also on the engagement intention side, which I mentioned. So there's some interesting statistics out there. 90% of apps are actually downloaded and never used again. So these numbers speak to the importance of planning for usage drop-off. It's really interesting to think about like kind of the critical windows of time, similar to what we look at in email marketing drip campaigns. When you're first structuring your engagement campaigns, you can start to look at windows such as day 1, day 3, and day 7. So studies show that if a user hasn't engaged with your app within day 3 of installing, they're very likely not going to again. So depending on the value proposition of your app, you'll want to determine what those time windows are. And that over time, you'll be able to learn and get a better idea of how your users are engaging with your app and when they're going to. And it's also really critical to have a robust real-time analytics tool installed in your app to track key data points and user behaviors that are happening in your app. And then from that information that you're going to be getting from those analytics tools, you'll then be able to start to segment your users based on their behaviors and then send them personalized and contextualized messaging in terms of content and the time windows when they're most likely to engage.
Absolutely great. I think those insights and thoughts are actually extremely interesting. So what I offer you to do now is basically to go, from top to bottom, just from what guys see first to the very moment when they actually open the app. So I guess let's begin with icons and screenshots. So Alexandra, my first question to you is, when we're talking about say icons, is the advice here the same as for the ASO, for the organic? Should guys do the same for Apple Search Ads?
Yeah, so that's a terrific question, actually. So I would say that, first of all the visuals, icons, screenshots, and app reviews are 3 elements that have the highest impact on the App Store conversions. And in most cases, people decide whether they want to install an app or not based on just this visual. So it almost goes without saying that you need to focus on optimizing icons and screenshots if you want to have higher TTR, tap-through rate of your ads, and higher CVR on the app product page conversion rate. So yeah, and of course, just because an icon is the only visual element that is used on each and every ad layout, so it definitely requires thorough optimization. And so yes, and it will influence actually TTR in every case. And the main idea for high converting icons, right? So actually the suggestion here is the same as for organic. So it has to stand out with its elements, colors, graphics, etc. But it also has to stay true to the original app idea. Like for instance, for Match 3 games, the top performing icons usually feature a gameplay like blocks, candies, diamonds, and all this stuff. And since your ad banner won't always be including screenshots, like in an ad layout with description, right? So an icon should be descriptive enough to give user an idea of what's inside, so yeah, of what's inside, and at the same time it should drive attention. So for that reason, characters and some abstract elements and logos, they want to give the desired TTR. So of course, unless you're Uber or Facebook, of course. Yep.
Great. And so if we're talking about screenshots, what I'd be like, and I guess guys would be really interested in, did you see any kind of difference in performance between landscape and portrait screenshots?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's a good question actually. So like just after iOS 11 release, they landscape screenshots, they had like 40-50% better conversion rate in search than portrait ones. So it was pretty reasonable to switch from portrait screenshots to split and landscape screenshots. But now, like since many app publishers optimize their app store pages for the current reality, for the current iOS version, and started using landscapes, well-optimized portrait screenshots actually regain their positions again. So with that said, the best way right now to choose between landscape and portrait screenshots for Apple Search Ads actually is to A/B test your creatives to choose the ad layout that would perform best. And you can do actually this in SplitMetrics. But guys, there are several, two more actually proven tricks on how you can optimize your conversions and get the most out of your screenshots. So, and they are really straightforward, but not many app publishers use them though. So the first trick is using huge 1 to 5 words captions. And just because in iOS 11 there are 3 screenshots in search, and screenshots became smaller, and so all elements did. And by using clear big captions, you can dramatically increase your TTR. And the second trick, the same reason screenshots became smaller, you can use such visual elements as zoom in, enlarge, or jumping out things, and lens, and all the things. So all this allows to highlight the most important features and, to drive users' attention to your core message. Yeah. Absolutely.
Thanks, Alexandra. I guess it's a very good segue into the second part, which is video. So Sylvain, what I'd like to ask you first is as well, like regarding the positioning of the video, should it better be landscape or portrait? Did you have any like drastic differences in performance for those two?
I think SplitMetrics has more data than us on this one, but my answer is going to be that it depends. It can depend on your app also. Some apps, if you show them in portrait, as Alexandra mentioned, the video is going to be small. Same thing for the screenshots, and you might end up not seeing things well. If you manage to counteract that with bigger copy, so people can still clearly see what's happening and still get the overview of what's happening, I think portrait can still be engaging. In general, from a purely video perspective, those videos that take the full width of the screen. So if you have a landscape app preview in the search results or in the search ads, it's definitely more immersive. So for landscape app, I think it's something that's definitely worth testing. And again, if you don't have a landscape app, or if your app has both, you don't necessarily need to have portrait screenshots to show a landscape video in the search results. There's some examples on the store where you have a landscape video in the search results, so it will also be a landscape video in Apple Search Ads. Yet when you get to the product page, you can have another portrait video and then portrait screenshot. So if it's something that you can test, I think it's a really interesting test to do, especially if your app has both landscape and portrait orientation. And for gaming, I like it a lot when I see those videos, full landscape for gaming as well.
Absolutely. And so like overall, I guess the advice for videos in Apple Search Ads should be pretty much the same as for the organic, right?
Yeah, it's the same creative, it's the same video. So in that sense, you need to think about both when you create it. If anything, to me, it puts the emphasis. It puts a stronger emphasis on the start of the video, because naturally, someone that just made a search sees the ad at the top. It's the natural behavior is going to be to start scrolling to see more search results. So it's true where in any search results, but if you're at the top, you want to, and you paid for that spot, you want to engage even faster if possible.
Absolutely. And one more question in regards to video is, so we here in SplitMetrics, while testing a lot of like app pages, etc., and videos, have noticed that those who watch the video up to the, I guess, 4th second, like this length seems to be kind of a breaking point after which users are either engaged or are not engaged. So maybe you could expand a bit on the on the overall length of the video, and also like on the overall, so to say, the scenario, the blocks of which the video consists of. What should be better like shown, for example, like people or gameplay or something like that?
Okay, so well, just to your last point, you need to work within Apple's guidelines, and you mentioned people, and there's some ways you can show people, in the background of some text screens. If the text, in the copy remains the main focal point, you can insert some live footage that way. You're kind of playing with the guidelines, but it seems to work. So that to answer that, but on the length. So the videos have to be between 15 seconds and 30 seconds. You mentioned that start that I do believe needs to be very strong. For the start of the video, you want to show the most visually compelling thing from your ad. It makes total sense, but still not everybody does it. So you want to find something that even when small, people are going to understand what it is. Use copy, within those first few seconds as well to anchor the message, because the videos autoplay in mute. And then, even though a lot of people are going to drop, after maybe 4 seconds, 10 seconds, 12 seconds, I don't think it necessarily means you need to make it, the minimum length of 15 seconds. You can still go a little further, but you do have to be mindful about the pace of your video. So in my opinion, you need to start strong with something that's going to hook people as much as possible, and then go into a quick overview of the different main features, basically taking the features that you will show in your screenshots one after the other, but showing a quick overview of that instead of diving deep into one feature. Worst case scenario, like showing someone logging in or signing up for your app. You want to give that quick overview of each of the features, 3-4 seconds max for each feature, so that people that watch the video can have the full overview once they're done. And if they start, you want to think about the video as what happened. Like I want my main message to be conveyed within those first few seconds. If they don't watch more, it's fine, because they already have the most important stuff already.
Absolutely, great. So I guess we've covered like the visuals part. Now let's just go down the pipeline. So Olivier, let's talk a little bit about like keywords and metadata optimization. So Apple Search Ads, as far as I'm aware, indexes like all the visible text parts on the app page for the like Search Ads banner. So what do you think should be given like the most attention to? What should be first optimized? What are the first steps basically with this one?
Okay. Well, actually picking the right keywords, it's something very important in your strategy. And you're right, Apple Search Ads, they are indexing the metadata and the search data to bring you some good keywords. But that's the case when you choose the option search match. So when you do search match, and it's pretty good strategy when you start doing search ads, because that's the easiest way to start. You just take this option, and then Apple will just pick the keywords for you based on your metadata. But I would not advise to do your metadata for search ads. If you optimize your metadata, your app name, your subtitle, your keywords list, that's for App Store optimization. That's the first reason to optimize your metadata. And then that's correct, search match will help you because it's easy, but for us, it's just a good start. So just do it at the beginning. If you are just starting with search ads, that's good. And you will get some information, interesting information, because you will see what Apple consider as good keywords for you. So it will analyze, it's a way to get an analysis from Apple on your metadata. But don't start doing metadata optimization for search ads. Do optimization for ASO, for organic search, and then you will benefit from that in the search ads. So what we advise is it's to start with search match, that's okay. But after, you should use your App Store optimization data to know which keywords are very interesting or not. And we see that what you should do, what we advise to do, is to look at the keywords that bring you most of your downloads. So try to see the keywords where you are ranked high and where the search popularity is high. So these keywords are the keywords that will bring you most of your downloads. That's interesting for your app, but it's also interesting to do it on your competitors. So look at the keywords that bring most of the downloads of your competitors. And based on these keywords, on these two sets of keywords, you have two main strategies to follow. One is the defensive strategy. And what is it? You will bid on all the keywords that are important for you. So the first thing that you want to be sure is that you keep your advantage. So nobody is stealing your advantage. So if, for instance, a booking hotel is a very important keyword for you, first look if some people are bidding on it. So maybe some competitors are already bidding on this. And if this is the case, then bid on it to keep your first position or your good position, because it's important for you. And in the other way, there is the offensive strategy, where you will find the good keywords from your competitors, and then you will start bidding on these keywords, because you want to take some share of voice from your competitors. And that's interesting to really analyze your data, your App Store optimization data, so you know on which keywords you can bid for a defensive way or for an offensive way. And for the same reason as App Store optimization, I would advise to iterate. So you will probably not find your best keywords at the first round. So start with a search match. It will give you a few keywords. Probably some of them are very good, but then start to iterate and look at the keywords to defend yourself and try to find a few keywords to be offensive.
So thanks, Olivier. And also one more question. So we all know that like keywords in Apple Search Ads do influence the organic ranking of the app, right? I just wanted to turn this question like 180 degrees. Does some optimization on the page side, on the organic side, influence the Apple Search Ads? And does some kind of keyword optimization may help you to get better results with Apple Search Ads?
Actually, the question is still open. And if you read blogs, and many people actually did some experiments, and some people actually saw some impact, some positive impact, but some other experiments didn't see any impact. What we did some experiments too, and what we saw is something pretty interesting. Is the fact that when you are bidding on a keyword where your app is ranked lower than the 8th position, when you are bidding on this keyword and your ad is published, then Apple will promote your app to the 8th position. So it's a way to Apple to give you like a double bonus. So they will put your ad on 1st position, and then your organic search will be in the 8th position. So that's the only thing that we really see until now. And otherwise, some people see impact or not. But the 8th rank, you can do it yourself, and it's always the case. So it's always the case. There is only one drawback. If you are unranked on the keyword, you will not be ranked on the 8th position. So you need a keyword which is ranked lower than the 8th position, but still rank. So like 50 or 100, and then you will get this promotion from Apple. Now, to come back to your questions, as Sylvain said, since ASO and Apple Search Ads are very linked, well, everything that you do in ASO will have an impact for the conversion. So your icon, the app name, the subtitle, I would say the ratings also, because we see the ratings in the ad. So the quality of your app is also important. And of course, the screenshots. Now, when we speak about the keywords, a good strategy also that you can bring from ASO is to bid on long tail keywords. So this can be the same as for apps optimization. You can bid on keywords, on long tail keywords, and they are known to convert pretty well. And what is good also with Apple Search Ads is that you can see after if they convert well or not. So when you make a few iterations, you can really decide on which keywords to bid. So that would be really our advice, is to pick some keywords from the long tail. Also, as I said before, pick the keywords that bring you most of your downloads or most of the downloads of your competitors.
Great, Olivier, thank you. And one more thing I wanted to ask is about description. So as I've mentioned, sorry, it's indexed by Apple Search Ads. So what's the advice here, like for the guys who are starting out? What should be done in terms of like the description?
Well, it's pretty the same. Like I said before, it will not be. It's not indexed for ASO. At least we didn't see it yet. So there are some questions about that also, but it looks like it's not indexed for App Store optimization. But it's still interesting to get a good description. Why? Just for SEO also. Just for this reason, anyway, that's important to have a good description. And what you should do, you should look at the keyword density. So how can you calculate them? You can just remove all the stop words, like he, she, then, can, all these words. You just keep the keywords, and then you count the density, so the frequency of these keywords. And what's very important is to look at these keywords, the density of the keywords, and to compare with your competitors. So look at your competitors, and you will see on which keywords they are actually targeting. So this can bring you a lot of very insightful information.
Absolutely, thank you. So so let's make kind of a step back. So we've optimized basically like whatever we could for the banner itself. We've optimized like icons, screenshots, did everything we could do with metadata, keywords, etc. So a lot of marketers actually think that like at this stage, probably their work is done already. So they've done whatever they could, acquired some users, guys have downloaded the app, right? But as we all know, it's not the case. So a lot of work should be done inside the app to maximize LTV, to maximize retention, etc. So Kara wanted to ask you the question is first just why is in-app optimization is crucial? Just a quick overview of this one.
Yes, that is a really important question and is often overlooked. I mean, the statistics are quite staggering in terms of user drop-off and the on average. And you know, there's a lot of focus always on the acquisition side. So I'm always excited when I see people setting up their engagement and retention campaigns in sync with their acquisition campaigns. So, you know, you want to look at both in-app retention from a user experience side, and then also in terms of having a robust analytics, real-time analytics tool that can help you identify where drop-off is happening and where you can best engage and come in within a critical window of time to create a campaign. So it's similar to email marketing drip campaigns. There's often windows of time that you would like most likely to engage. Often day one is where we see the vast amount of user drop off. So if you set up a campaign to go out for day one, and then maybe in the beginning, day one, day three, and day 7, after you've got your analytics, you know, you're able to see where that drop off is happening. You can then optimize those windows and you know, other key points that I can get into in a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, great. And so could you give us a couple of insights and expand a bit on what are actual like strategies, tips and tricks which some companies like use to optimize in-app retention, and in particular, are there any differences in those strategies for users who come from like organic and for those guys who come from Apple Search Ads?
Yeah, totally. I think I'm going to give an example here because there's a lot of different strategies that we could get into, but it's nice to have it set up in terms of something that could be applicable for probably a lot of different companies. So one example could be around a food delivery app. And this is where both personalization, as I touched on earlier, and this golden window of time frame can come into play. So let's give an example of a food delivery app that is targeting users in Los Angeles, and they've been able to identify that there's a certain segment of their users that are ordering Asian food for around 12:30 p.m. for lunch. Okay, so from that, as on an analytics side, you were able to identify a segment of users. And so then you want to determine what engagement campaign strategies you want to employ to best get them to convert around that golden window of time, we call them. So we would recommend to send a push notification around the time that they're going to start thinking about ordering lunch. So again, now you're looking very time-based messaging. Say that from your analytics tool, you're able to determine that's around 11:30 a.m. And from here, you'll want to send a contextualized message. So this could be a special offer for restaurants in the Asian food category that are in the area. And copy could say something like, hey, Sam, insert name, Sam, order from these Asian restaurants in the next 45 minutes and you'll receive 15% off. So some of the things that we did there were making the messaging personalized, including their name, including the specific category of restaurants that they were looking at, and then also enhancing with rich imagery within that push notification. So this will hopefully get them to remember that your app exists, that they've used it before, that they want to come back in and engage, and hopefully convert. You can also then set up a campaign for those that haven't converted. So similar to email, can be a triggered campaign when you see someone abandon their cart for a certain time period. Again, you'll learn over time from your analytics what that time window is, and every segmented group may have a different conversion window, an abandoned cart window. So say they did come from that first campaign you mentioned, and they were thinking about ordering something, but then they thought, oh, well, I should really probably go look around and see what else is over there. I ordered Asian last week. So then you're able to identify, well, okay, let's send them another triggered push notification 10 minutes after they've abandoned their cart, and say, let's offer them a free drink and a reminder that their items are in their cart and that they can get their order delivered by 12:45 if they order now. So again, it's about consistent messaging that's iterative and based on your analytics. So I want to touch again on like what an analytics tool can offer, and you'd want to look into advanced user segmentation that can pull every data point and then group them together. And then also an engagement provider that allows you to create omni-channel engagement campaigns. So these are things like push notifications, in-app messaging, and then you'll want to have someone that coordinates with your email and attribution providers. So using the personalization, as I mentioned, and contextualization and targeted messaging as much as possible with things like the user's name, including their time, the time to best target them, and their location, this will really help to drive retention in LTV. As far as the difference of users from organic search and ASA, you can track which keywords and campaigns brought them into your app, and then coordinate your in-app messaging and push campaigns with that granularity and personalization of the content you serve up to them.
Absolutely. And also wanted to touch upon, so you've got an incredible white paper called Mastering Mobile Engagement and Retention, which guys who's watching the panel discussion will be able to find it attached to the yeah, on the page to the panel discussion. So in this white paper, you're covering like the user retention lifecycle, right, in a couple of stages and what should be done. So could you just a little bit expand on this one, what it means, and on all of the stages of this life cycle of user retention, what are like tips and tricks to be done in order to maximize the user retention inside the app?
Yeah, for sure. So there are about, we've categorized these stages into 3 different stages. It's threefold. So the first stage is your onboarding stage. Your second stage is your nurture stage. And then the third portion is your attrition stage. So I'm going to dive deeper into all 3 here, and keeping it short as well. So in the onboarding stage, this is where you're determining which acquisition channels are driving your downloads and figuring out where your users are moving along in the journey. So most analytic providers should have a funnel analysis feature where you can analyze drop-offs within a sequence of user actions within like having a certain end goal within a certain period of time. So again, like in that that last example I gave, a food purchase would be the end goal, right? So then you would set up your funnel sequence to track the activities that led up to that. So could be launching the app, searching for a product, viewing the product, adding a product to cart, and then purchasing. So that's absolutely critical, is having the funnel analysis set up. You can also look into retention cohorts. These help you identify and group your users who have performed a specific action, and then they get, likely want them to come back again with the same action. So we could probably have a whole session on user onboarding, so I'll skip to the next stage. But there is more information in our white paper too, if you'd like to go into that. So then the second stage was the nurture stage, and this is some of the things I mentioned before. There's different types of notifications. Notifications are the single most effective way to get users to come back and transact that we've seen, and that's generally push notifications, also in-app messaging. And if you've done a good job segmenting your users and understanding their behavior, at that point, it's really just all about what type of campaign you want to hit them with, the time-based, and then what channel. So you may find, say, a group of users you acquired from a specific Facebook campaign. They're most likely to come back into your app if you engage with them via SMS. So this is a great example of looking at from top of the funnel where they were acquired from, and then tracking that to see where your most highly retained users are coming from, and then how to re-engage them. And so the final stage, as I mentioned, is the attrition stage. So we look at about 7 days of after you've acquired your users, as I mentioned before, is this critical window. And if you do create campaigns within this time, you'll likely minimize attrition as much as possible. One thing that I think is the absolute key, most effective, is setting up a campaign right after they've downloaded it and getting them to do something in the app right away. So like taking a poll or, selecting something, making a choice on something. So make sure you think about that right away. And then if you see that there's a period of inactivity that they haven't engaged with them, send them a push notification to keep them coming back. And this is always an iterative process. So hope that's helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. That's indeed helpful. And thanks, Kara. My final question is kind of a generic, but may actually be very interesting to guys who are listening to the panel discussion is, so let's say I'm just starting out with Apple Search Ads, right? I'm professional with like Facebook, AdWords, etc. I'm not yet sure about the channel like of Apple Search Ads, right? I don't want to put a giant bets on this one. Don't want to spend like tons of money on it. Yet I want to try it out to get a taste of like Apple Search Ads to see what kind of ROI it can offer to me, right? So what just should I start with? What are my first, let's say, like 3 or 5 steps to get sufficient results, to get a taste of what Apple Search Ads can offer? I don't know, Olivier, maybe you can start with this one.
Yeah, well, actually, we would advise to start with App Store optimization, because it will bring you a lot of insightful information to do a better Apple search ads. And we really believe that there is a mutual benefits to work on App Store optimization and on search ads. So ASO will bring you very insightful information on the conversion of your icon or screenshots, but also on the keywords. And you will get a lot of information also from search ads to improve ASO. So we really see this like a two-way benefit. So from ASO to search ads and from search ads to ASO. So I would not do just search ads alone. So I would start by doing a proper strategy and optimization, organic optimization, and then I would add search ads on top of it.
Okay, Alexandra, what's your take on that?
Yeah, actually, I couldn't agree more. So absolutely, App Store optimization is your start. So like either way, it all starts with keywords optimization. But however, once you've set up Apple Search Ads, you're okay with your keyword optimization. So you need to be sure you are getting high conversions, and you need to optimize each stage of your funnel, like starting with TTR and conversion rate. So, and here, of course, visual optimization will be a must as well.
Absolutely. And Sylvain, do you have something to add to this one?
Besides the fact that, I agree, it's because a lot of your elements, and I'm going to talk on the creative side, a lot of your creatives, whether the icon, the screenshot are going to be reused, before starting spending money, you want to make sure that they're not harming you. So you want to, test that out and optimize that before you actually start spending money with the ads.
Okay, thank you. That's very true, actually. And Kara, I know you're more on kind of retention side, not that much on like user acquisition, but still, maybe you can give your take on the question.
Yeah, I would just recommend syncing up your attribution provider with an analytics provider like CleverTap, so you're able to track your acquisition campaigns all the way through the life cycle.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. So I guess we're done here. Been a pleasure talking to you all. We've covered a lot of insights, a lot of valuable information, guys, who are watching. Hope you've enjoyed it. Be free to visit each company's website, blog, social media. All guys are doing great jobs at like what they're doing. And yeah, Kara, Sylvain, Olivier, Alexandra, been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Bye.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.